Council press briefing. Today, the NMC will be sharing the recent updates and developments within the Philippines maritime domain, especially in the latest occurrence in the West Philippine Sea. So before we start, let me break down the house rules for our media colleagues. After the presentation, we will be proceeding to Q&A portion. Before your question, kindly state your name and your network or organization that you represent. Each media personnel are entitled to ask one question and one follow-up question. And lastly, please bear reminded that all questions must be aligned with the topics discussed today. So here with us are the key representatives who will provide the latest updates and developments in our country's maritime domain. We have Undersecretary Alexander S. Lopez, spokesperson of the National Maritime Council, Rear Admiral Royce Vincent Trinidad, AFP spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tarriela, Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson for the West Philippine Sea, Assistant Director General Cornelio Valencia Jr., spokesperson of the National Security Council, former Ambassador Angelica C. Escalona, spokesperson of the Department of Foreign Affairs. We also have Director Marissa Gilda Balmaceda of the Defense Communication Service of the Department of National Defense. And Mr. Nazario Briguera, spokesperson of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. So to officially start, may we call on spokesperson of the National Maritime Council, Undersecretary Alexander Lopez, for his opening remarks, to be followed by his presentation for this press briefing.
Thank you very much, CJ, and good afternoon to everyone. We thank you for making time for this press briefing. Well, basically, this press briefing will be covering the second quarter, as we had the first quarter sometime May or June rather. And what we are going to provide you is the significant events that we have done during the second quarter, and touching on the SONA and the recent incident in Balmaceda in August 11. So on behalf of the National Maritime Council, in particular our chairman, Executive Secretary Lucas P. Bersamin. Again, we welcome you everyone to this second quarter press briefing of the National Maritime Council. And we are very thankful for the generosity of Commodore Tarriela for hosting the venue and the snacks. Okay, so without much further ado, allow me now to proceed with the press briefing, and I'm very glad that the different spokespersons of some members of the council are here present to answer questions specific to their mandate. So, okay, next chart. Just to come up with a common page that we are indeed a maritime nation and archipelagic nation, meaning that the ratio of land is to water is 1:7, meaning that for every square kilometer of land, meron siyang kaakibat na 7 square kilometers of water. Okay, next chart. With regard to the expanse of the West Philippine Sea, the West Philippine Sea is actually 1/4 of the total maritime space. So, ganong kalaki yung ating karagatan, okay? And the next chart will show you the different actions of the government in order to cover the big maritime space of the Philippines. Okay, next chart. Our focus actually is the West Philippine Sea muna, no? And that expanse of maritime space, we were able to conduct 87 surface operations, and we were also able to conduct 24 aerial operations. And this is broken down into next chart. We have vessels deployed coming from the AFP, the Coast Guard, as well as the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, as shown. 7 from the AFP, 11 from the Coast Guard, and 10 from the BFAR. Okay, next chart. With regard to the aircraft deployed, the AFP have deployed 5 aircraft, the Coast Guard deployed 5, and the BFAR also deployed 1 aircraft. Okay, next chart. So in terms of total steaming time, our vessels were able to log the 6,000 steaming time or steaming hours, and covering a total distance of 39,921 miles. This is linear, no? Linear. But when we come to next chart will show you that this linear coverage will translate into covering the total area of the West Philippine Sea almost more than twice. Because one vessel, for example, can cover around 25 to 30 nautical miles coverage. So that explains the strategic presence and coverage of our vessels. That not to mention the coverage of our aircraft. Okay, next chart. And also during the second quarter, we were able to conduct 3 regular RORE missions at the Sierra Madre that is stationed in the UN Shoal. These are regular resupply missions, rotation resupply missions. Okay, next chart. So the different agencies of the National Maritime Council actually came up with initiatives, no? And as shown before you are some of those initiatives, significant activities, starting with the Coast Guard, the Bureau of Fisheries, and next chart will also show you that the Coast Guard and the Bureau of Fisheries working on the KBBM program of our President, yung kadiwa ng bagong bayaning mangingisda, a program of the government. Ang ating BFAR in coordination with the Coast Guard ay nagbibigay sila ng mga ayuda, ika nga, no? They were able to distribute or provide our local fishermen fishing in the area around 128,000 liters of fuel oil, around 390 packs of groceries to include water provisions, and we were able to, during the second quarter, to service or provide these logistics to 79 Filipino fishing boats. Dahil meron din tayong mga government stations in the area, we were able to provide logistics mission in these 9 government stations. But all in all, during the quarter, we were able to do 15 logistics missions. Okay, next chart. In the part of the Defense Department working on our treaty allies, especially in the conduct of the maritime cooperative activities, shown you before you are the significant activities conducted during the second quarter of this year. May balikatan tayo, mayroon tayong Philippines, Japan, US Coast Guard exercises, and also commander exercises and other cooperative activities done. Okay, next chart. Again, to continue, these are the other initiatives undertaken by our agencies. Hindi lang po Navy and Air Force, but also may contribution dito ang Philippine National Police Maritime Group. Okay, next chart. As well as our Department of Affairs for the year, as of August, was able to file 35 different diplomatic protests or actions against China. Okay, next chart. Meron po tayong tinatawag na Presidential Office for Maritime Concerns. Actually, ito yung nagsisilbing secretariat ng National Maritime Council, at meron din po siyang mga akibat na mga activities, and shown before you are those. Special mention po ito yung Memorandum Circular number 87, directing all government agencies and instrumentalities and encouraging government units and the private sector to promote awareness of the Philippines as a maritime and a archipelagic nation. Okay, next chart. Shown you before you actually yung tinatawag na ICAD, yung gray zone tactics na binigyan natin ng kulay. I stands for illegal, C for coercive, A for aggressive, and D for deceptive actions. So these are the ones conducted by China during the second quarter. Mapapansin niyo po, mayroon isang ramming incident na nangyari. Ito po yung sometime June Doon sa Sandy Cay na yung BFAR vessels natin ay sinide-swipe, hinaras at basically niram. Okay, next shot. So these are the notable incidents during the quarter. We had on April 7. Kung mapapansin niyo po, ano, ang mga bagay-bagay na ito ay ang basic units na involved dito ay ating Bureau of Fisheries and kanilang mga vessel while conducting humanitarian resupply missions to our Filipino fishermen. So sila yung nasa front line, so more often than not, sila yung nasa subject to the harassments and aggressive actions being conducted by the Chinese. Okay, next chart. Again, on May 21 and in June 20, again, ang main recipient ng kanilang are the vessels from the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources. Okay, next chart. Yung mga insidente po na side-swapping, ramming, when every time the National Maritime Council issues out a statement, ang ating mga kaibigan na embassies o bansa dito sa Pilipinas, they are very generous in providing statements of support. And this in these two occasions, in May 21 and May 22 and June 21 actually, different countries, no? Incidental lang po yung 23 countries, pareho sila pero different countries po came up with different statements of support for this particular incident. Okay, next chart. Now, marami po nagtanong during the SONA ni Presidente, bakit walang nasabi about West Philippine Sea? One-liner lang, no? Actually, very malalim yun. That's why we came up with this. We have broken down the statement of the President. And with regard to his foreign policy for this year, there is nothing new, sabi niya, no? Because we are following core principles that we will adhere to the UNCLOS and the rule of law. We will anchor our actions more on the 2016 arbitral award, and we'll be resolving any disputes through peaceful means, no? Maximizing our diplomatic channels and mechanisms. And what is the policy stance? That, again, the Philippines is friend to all and enemy to none. Very clear yun. Inulit ni Presidente yun, ano? And we will continue defending our sovereignty, our sovereign rights, and our jurisdiction. It's very, very clear. At anong ginagawa po natin sa strategic level? We again work on legal and diplomatic actions. We continue to develop our armed forces as well as our Coast Guard and even our BFAR for these maritime agencies to be conducting more of their mandate. And kasama din po na nakike-leverage tayo sa ating mga kaalyadong mga bansa, like-minded nations or like-minded partners, as well as within our region through the ASEAN, and also through the Quad. Okay. Yung next chart. At ito yung foreign policy actually mas maganda dahil ang ating presidente ay meron siyang podcast and he was able to reiterate or expound his foreign policy during that podcast delivered sometime basically sometime July din yun, July din, if I'm not mistaken. At inulit niya kung ano yung sinasabi niya doon, kung ano yung kanyang foreign policy. Okay, next chart. Now, siguro, this is very recent, the August 11. We will break this down, again, next chart. And what is about the August 11 incident? And this is basically the incident that our Coast Guard vessel 4406 went on mission to provide supplies, again, humanitarian supplies, working under the KBBM program, at pumunta siya dito sa Baudi Masinloc to service our Filipino fishermen. And during that time, there was about maybe 15 to 20 vessels, if I'm not mistaken, of Filipino 30, according to the Coast Guard. And once our Coast Guard 4406 was there, namataan nila na yung PLA Navy 164 at ang China Coast Guard 3104 ay nandun at sinimulan silang habulin. And our Coast Guard vessel was subjected to dangerous maneuvers And they wanted to block our Coast Guard vessel. And this aggressive, siguro alam naman natin, no? Ang kanilang aggressive and dangerous maneuvers backfired, no? Bumaliktad, kumbaga nakarma, and it led to the collision of these two Chinese vessels. Okay? And nakita naman natin, diba, sa mga pictures na lumabas, the Chinese Coast Guard vessel sustained great damage. And to our perspective, hindi na naging seaworthy during that time. And it has to be towed. Hindi na siya pwedeng no? It has to be towed back somewhere else if you don't know. Okay? And sa tingin po namin, I being a former Navyman myself, Commodore Tarriela, ay nakita namin that there must be a possible man overboard incident. No? Kasi di ba, makikita niyo yung nguso, yung nose ng talagang nawasak. At mayroong mga tao doon. No? So maybe we can surmise that there can be a possible man overboard incident. And there can also be some incident na baka may nawawalang, may mga seriously injured Chinese sailors or Coast Guard men. Okay? But despite that, no? Despite yung nabunggo yung kanilang China Coast Guard, itong China Navy vessel ay continued pa rin na to habulin yung Coast Guard vessel, no? Ay dapat na siya, no? Tinulungan niya yung distressed Coast Guard vessel niya, no? Pero hinabol pa rin yung ating Coast Guard vessel, no? So nonetheless, yung ating Coast Guard vessel 4401, and this time yung kalapit niyang Philippine Coast Guard vessel na Tarriela 9701, they were able to offer medical assistance and search and rescue. Tinawagan nila, kung gusto nila, tutulong kami. Basically, that's the decision. Pero walang tugon yung China Navy or even the China Coast Guard. So basically, that is the incident. Okay? Next chart. Ano naman po yung impact na nakita natin? No? Ang impact nito, nakita natin, na-validate natin na ginagawa talaga ng China, the coercive and aggressive actions really threaten the safety of vessels and lives at sea. No? So, kumbaga, yung ginagawa nyo, na nangyari sa inyo, basically, it only validated their actions. At namukod-tangi po dito yung kagalingan ng ating being Filipino, especially ating Philippine Coast Guard personnel, no? They showed professionalism. Alam niyo, kaming mga Navy, Marines, everything, meron kaming tinatawag na maritime tradition. So any mariner who are distressed at sea, dapat tutulungan yon. No? Siguro meron kayong nakikitang kwento na meron mga nakapsize na bangka dyan, pag may dumaan na whatever merchant, tinutulungan nila. Pero hindi nangyari sa China. Again, it is mind-blowing, no? Mind-blowing. Bakit gano'n, no? But then again, sabi natin kanina, ito yung pagiging Coast Guard ng ating Philippine Coast, the true spirit of being a Coast Guard. No? Kaya nga, Coast Guard, no? And doon namukatanga yung ating Philippine Coast Guard. And with that, actually, gusto natin pasalamatan and applaud them, no? For doing a very good job. Another thing that we saw there, the impact, no? Yung nagpalabas kagad tayo, there was the wisdom in having media on board. Aside from that, of course, na-document ng ating mga personnel yung nangyari. Kasi kung wala noon, uunahan na naman tayo ng China. Mapapalabas sila, pictures, everything, debunking, magiging defensive tayo. So that's basically the effectivity of us coming up with our efforts on transparency. No? And also, it has all been said that the Philippines will always adhere or international law, or adherence natin sa international law on the UNCLOS and the 26th Cabinet ruling. And despite what happened, the Philippines, our Coast Guard, our Navy, our BFAR will not be covered. We will not be intimidated. And we will continue to have our presence felt, to protect and defend sovereignty in our jurisdiction. And we will exercise our sovereign maritime rights and even encourage our fishermen to exercise their sovereign maritime rights. Okay, next chart. Ano naman yung ginagawa ng Navy, no? ng China? we expect that they will like to shape the narrative to their advantage. They will twist facts. No? They will come up with disinformation, especially informing their people kung ano yung nangyari, pero hindi yung sinasabi ng collision, wala yun. No? They can even present pictures or videos showing, oh, Pilipinas talaga yung nag-cut, Pilipinas yung naggumawa ng aggressive, ano. So, ganun, palagi ganun narrative nila. Pero nowhere that they will show what happened to their vessels. We have yet to receive, we have yet to come up with information coming from China na indeed pinalabas yung collision na yun. I don't think they will come up with it. No? Again, next chart. And these are actually, ginawa na nila to, no? Yung sabi nila, the Philippines pa nga ang completely misjudged itself and surrounding situation from the global times. These are the company-owned, company-influenced social media or media outfits. They will all be coming up with this information. They will be coming up with this narrative, no? Para bang lumalabas na sila pa yung kawawa, no? There was even an issue. Kasalanan ng Pilipinas, dapat magbayad ang Pilipinas. Okay, next chart. There's another thing coming from their own officials, no? From the defense ministry nila. And in fact, yung naka-highlight doon, coming from the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs nila. So these are all misinformation and disinformation, the objective of which is, para matabunan, ma-cover up yung kanilang pagkakamali wherein two of their own vessels collided. No? Okay. So, next chart. So again, this is what the President said, that despite all of these things, no, we will continue to defend our territory and we will continue to exercise our sovereign rights. And despite any opposition from anyone, we will continue to do that as we have done in the past 3 years. Now, we do not intensify operations, we just respond. Di naman tayo agresibo, dumedepensa lang tayo. So basically, a very powerful statement of the President, very statesman-like statement. So I guess that's my last slide. Thank you very much for your attention, and we now open to your questions. Thank you.
Before we proceed to Q&A, sir, let us hear a statement from the National Task Force of West Philippine Sea. May I call on ADG Cornelio Valencia Jr. of the NSC.
On behalf of the National Security Advisor, and who is also the head of the National Task Force West Philippine Sea, Secretary Anyo, I would like to thank the National Maritime Council for inviting us here. The National Task Force West Philippine Sea exists to translate policy to action, and over the past months, this has been sustained and demonstrated through decisive diplomatic measures, sustained patrols and resupply missions, closer cooperation with allies and our partners, strengthened law enforcement and defense capabilities, as well as public information and our livelihood support to our fishermen. These actions reflect not isolated efforts, but a whole of government effort to defending sovereignty, securing our maritime domain, and safeguarding the welfare of our fisher folk and coastal communities. The message is clear. Our policies are not confined to paper. They are felt on the seas, in our communities, and in our engagements with our international friends. Every protest filed, every patrol launch, every partnership forged, and every advocacy carried, it embodies our steadfast commitment to the West Philippine Sea. The National Security Council, through the National Task Force West Philippine Sea, reaffirms its commitment to the unity of efforts, because only through shared responsibility can we effectively protect our national interests and ensure a peaceful, rules-based maritime order. Maraming salamat po at magandang hapon.
Okay, thank you, Yusek Lopez and ADG Cornelio Valencia for the presentation and statement. Now, before we proceed for the question and answer portion, may I please be reminded, all of our media colleagues, to before giving your questions, please state your name, your organization that you represent, and the person or the resource speaker that you want to answer your question. Sir Tristan from Newswatch.
Hello, good afternoon po. To Yusek Lopez and to Ambassador Escalona, what diplomatic actions na po ang ginawa natin over the August 11 incident sa Scarborough Shoal? Have we filed a protest on that particular incident? And yung nangyari rin po noong Wednesday, yung dangerous maneuvers na po ng Chinese fighter jet over Philippine aircraft, was it also protested by the Philippine government?
Test, test. How's that? Ayan. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. On the part of the DFA, we released a statement last August 12, 2025, expressing concern on the dangerous maneuvers of the Chinese vessels. Si Secretary Lazaro din, she issued a statement, nagsalita siya that while we consider the collision an unfortunate outcome, it must be emphasized that it was not caused by the Philippines. Regarding the diplomatic protest for this specific incident, pinag-aaralan pa rin po.
Follow-up lang po, the DFA also released a statement, yun nga po, no, about the incident and also reminded China about yung repayment doon sa June 2024 incident. Did we officially ask China again to pay doon sa nangyari po na incident sa Ayungin?
Well, ito po yung pinakahuli. So at the moment, ito lang po muna ang sinabi ng ating secretary.
Okay na ba yung mga mic natin? Press mic. Sir? Yusek Lopez, sir.
Well, actually, when the incident happened last year, no, meron tayong pending request actually. One, for the firearms to be returned, okay? And the other one is, I think, payment, no? I guess from the AFP, maybe he can come up with more, kasi basta yung pagkakanik, no, meron tayong outstanding request actually. So, sabi nga, baka wala pang progress about that. No?
Next question po, ma'am, sir.
Good afternoon po. Patrick Desos from PTV. Sa DFA po ulit. Clarification lang po yung 35 diplomatic protest. For this year po ba yun or yung second quarter alone lang po? And kung may naging response po yung sa Chinese government po?
The 35 is for yes,
This year lang yun, ma'am, tama. May naging response pa po ba from the Chinese government po dun sa mga final po na diplomatic protests?
as far as I know, wala po, no? As far as I know, but I can double check.
Thank you. Kay Sir Jay po. Yung update lang po sa monitoring sa BDM, if still for China Coast Guard ships po yung nasa vicinity and kung naglo-loiter pa rin po ron yung research vessel po na Xiangyang Hong 10. Thank you.
Well, based on our monitoring, the Philippine Coast Guard is still monitoring 4 China Coast Guard vessels As I mentioned last Friday, they are maintaining a distance of 24 nautical miles from Bajo de Masinloc. The same thing with Shangyang Hong Chinese research vessel. It's still within the vicinity of Bajo de Masinloc.
Any more questions?
Sir, Pam from AFP po, tatanong ko lang po, like, yung US ships po ba ay present pa near the Scarborough Shoal as of this moment? And if ever, may plano po ba tayo na mag-tap sa US government for their ships to be more present in the area?
AFP.
Yes, the U.S. Navy warships that conducted innocent passage and freedom of navigation in the vicinity of Bajo de Masinloc were there a couple of days ago. They were just passing through the area. As to tapping other countries, especially the U.S., for more presence in our maritime domain, I could say that there are other activities, maritime cooperative activities being lined up, not only with the U.S. but with other foreign partners, like-minded nations. In the works, we're planning for them. We don't announce them in advance, but the moment they are finalized and ready for execution, appropriate press advices will be given to all of you.
Hello, sir. Any of the spokespersons may answer because it applies to both the BFAR, Navy, and then the PCG. No? Sir, so far, after the incident on August 11 and then following that fighter jet incident on Wednesday, pwede ba nating masabi na safe pa ang mga Pilipino pumunta sa Bajo de Masinloc, whether it be fishermen, BFAR, Coast Guard, or whoever who wants to pass through that area? Can we guarantee their safety at this point, knowing na babanggain naman talaga tayo no, at the time nakaiwas lang talaga yung PCG?
Well, first of all, let me first correct what you said, that on the part of the Philippine Coast Guard, we are not actually implying that the intention of the PLA Navy vessel is to directly ram the Philippine Coast Guard vessel. There is no statement from the Coast Guard, and I would like to have it corrected. Secondly, with regard to the Filipino fishermen to go to Bajo de Masinloc, as what we have been mentioning, the kadiwa para sa bagong bayaning mangingisda ng ating mga kababayang mangingisdang Pilipino is part of a project that is being supported by the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, the Department of Agriculture, and the Philippine Coast Guard. Having said that, I would argue that the Filipino fishermen can still go there and engage in fishing venture. The Philippine Coast Guard vessels and BFAR vessels are once in a while deployed in this area to protect the interests of the Filipino fishermen.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Beko Pin from Rappler. For the DFA spokesperson, ma'am, do we have, aside from considering a possible protest, do we have plans of bringing this up perhaps through the BCM with China? I think we would be expecting one soon, or dapat last month, a meeting with China. Do we intend on bringing up Bajo de Masinloc specifically, and perhaps do we see the need or a future in which we can negotiate something like a provisional agreement similar to the one in Ayungin?
Well, regarding sa bilateral dialogue natin with China, yes, we are looking at existing platforms for discussing all these important matters with China. Again, ang instructions sa atin is that we continue diplomacy and dialogue, and we keep lines of communication open with China. Linsunod na nga yan sa instructions ng Pangulo to manage the issue in a peaceful manner.
More questions?
Sa PCG po, AFP, or NMC, or NSC po, last week nabanggit po ni General Browner po na magkakaroon ng conference nga po ang Philippine Coast Guard and Armed Forces of the Philippines with the President po. Ito po ba'y natuloy na, and ano po yung na-discuss kung magkakaroon po ng changes on how we implement yung pag-iit po ng sovereignty po natin sa West Philippine Sea? Kasi as far as the NSA Secretary Anyo is concerned, hindi pa raw time for the military to lead po yung mga operations sa BDM.
Thank you, Patrick. I would like to respond to the question whether there was a meeting already conducted between the Coast Guard and the Armed Forces of the Philippines, which was recited by the President. As of this time, there are no reported meetings that have been completed and presided by the President. As to the changes of our operational and tactical deployment, I would agree to the National Security Advisor, and him being the chairman of the National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea. That is something that the Philippine Coast Guard and, of course, the Armed Forces of the Philippines also supports.
Any other questions?
ADG Valencia, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon. We also would like to pursue PCG as the lead as of this point, just to ensure the message to our Chinese friends that we are not escalating things. That is the main message of using our civilian Coast Guard. So I believe they read it. It's just a matter for them to accept it.
Sir, may question lang ako. Siguro just reaction on, kasi we are talking about recently incidents sa Scarborough. May mga there's this article, without naming who, parang nagsasabi na misappreciated daw how we lost Scarborough. And accurate ba yun na tanggapin natin na we lost Scarborough by inaction, and ano ba talaga ang ating stand doon when it comes to that? Kasi parang may nag-accuse din na may misappreciation sa AFP, may misappreciation dun sa ano talagang nangyari. That's why we're in such a mess.
Well, without naming the person, I think you and I know who are you referring to. For one, that's not true. No. The 2016 arbit ruling is a win for us. In whatever way ito ay di tayo nanalo. It's just it's a very sorry thing that some personalities involved trying to demean, no? Para to undermine what we have won. So, in short and simple language, we do not agree to the personal opinion of that person. Thank you.
Yes. If you're referring to a columnist attacking the Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, first and foremost, the AFP remains focused on performing its mandate of protecting the integrity of the national territory, defending our sovereignty and sovereign rights. We are aware of different perspectives of the West Philippine Sea, historical perspectives of the West Philippine Sea. It is not our role to engage in historical dispute or political commentary. What is very clear to your armed forces is that we will remain focused on protecting the maritime domain of this country, ensuring our fisher folks are able to access fishing grounds, and that any maritime entitlements within our EEZ and even the extended continental shelf will be for the Filipino people. Thank you.
Do you have any more questions?
Sir Jim.
Hi, sir. Jim Gomez, sir, from AP. Sir, what a lot of people saw was the employment of a Chinese Navy ship. Now, usually, Chinese Coast Guard, in an elevated level of aggression, frontline against civilian vessels. So, my question is, what operational safeguards would you employ, countermeasures? Would the Philippine government consider now the deployment of Navy ships in frontline operations? not in the background?
Unang-una, no, ang napakaliwanag ng direktibo nating Pangulo. Whatever we do, we will not be the one to provoke. No? And hindi lang naman ito nangyari first time. Actually, it also happened sometime last year that a PLA Navy warship was deployed at nag-react din tayo doon. No? Pero ang reaction natin dito, hindi tayo magpapadala ng Navy natin para tapatan ang isang Navy. Bakit? Kasi once you deploy a Navy vessel there, you come like warlike. You come in warlike. Para bang nanunutya ka, nangahamon ka. That is not the policy stand of our government. So, hindi tayo magpo-provoke kasi we do not know what will happen if 2 Navy vessels are there. Kasi doon pwede mangyari miscalculation, misjudgment. And that is the thing that we do not want. No? Hindi naman nasasabi dahil hindi tayo na-deploy doon and naduduwag tayo, hindi. We are just being prudent, we're just being practical. And we do not want this a situation to escalate. And if ever it escalates, it is not to the best interest of our country. It is not even to the best interest of China for that matter and to the region. So we might as well tone it down and bring it down to a level that we can manage. Otherwise, you do not know what will happen.
Ay, Yusek Lopez. Siguro po para lang din, kasi may mga conversation din online kung yung nangyaring incident, yung ganong klaseng banggaan between 2 Chinese vessels. If babalik ta rin natin yung sitwasyon, involved na yung Philippine vessel at ganon yung klaseng collision, would that be tantamount to invoking also the Mutual Defense Treaty?
That's speculative. We don't want to respond to questions that are purely speculative.
Hi, it's Bea again. Sir, I understand the position of the Philippines, kaya we don't want gray to gray. Pero to steal from the President's quote last week regarding a different area in our maritime areas, no? He was talking about Taiwan. He was talking about hope is not a plan. Paano naman po yun? Kung kumbaga yun nga, parang yung discussions online is konting ilang inch lang siguro, ilang meter lang siguro, pwedeng hindi China to China collision yon, baka China-Philippine collision na yon sa Baho de Masinloc na ganun. Like, what are we doing? Although we understand there's a 2016 arbitral award, parang we still know that it's China that is very aggressive in that area and in fact controls access to yung lagoon mismo ng Baho de Masinloc. So, siguro the public will also wonder, like, we say that international law is on our side, but operationally, what they see is China bullying Philippines over and over again.
Well, what the government is doing, in particular the Philippine Coast Guard, is to make sure that we are deploying skippers of the vessels who are excellent in seamanship skills. The display of seamanship skill of Captain Angge, the commanding officer of 4406, is a good evidence of how careful we are in selecting Coast Guard vessels whenever we deploy in the West Philippine Sea.
Well, just to know, whatever happens, actually, our government is prepared for anything without going to the details. So it is pwede sigurong na ating mga kabayan na meron tayong nakalaan na gagawin kung sakali man. Kumbaga, the contingency measures or plans are in place. So yung sinasabi naman na yung hope about, actually we are planning for the worst scenario. That's very military, no? Basic naman sa amin yun. We do not plan for anything small, but we plan for something big. So without going to the details, we do have contingency measures already.
Any more questions, or are there none? Okay, there's one more.
Sir, follow up lang, sir. Kasi after that August 11 incident, no? In fact, tinamaan na yung Philippine Coast Guard ship, yung Flagstaff na nabaluktot, sir. After that, yung nagpalipad yung Philippine Coast Guard ng surveillance plane may nag-hover naman na Chinese fighter jet just 200 feet above the Philippine Coast Guard plane. So it's getting closer and closer, and it seems like a disaster waiting to happen. So what can the Philippines do in terms of other remedies like yung international anti-collision treaty? What can to it seems like it's helpless. So what other international treaty remedies can the Philippines do aside from what the Philippine Coast Guard and the Navy have been religiously doing?
Well, again, babalik tayo dun sa policy stance ng gobyerno. No? We will address things in the most peaceful manner. In fact, in jet, yung nagpalipad sila, actually, wala pa nga yun eh. The most critical there was yung pinaliparan yung BFAR vessel natin na almost 10 feet lang eh. That's the most critical actually. And how did we address that? We came up with a professional, we came up with a diplomatic protection of that, we came up with citing the convention on aerial, yung magandang convention. So, well, in terms of, kami mga piloto, no, kung mangyari sa amin, it's part of the, it's part of the job, sabi nga, no. Kung mangyari sa Navy, it's part of the job. No? So, but then again, we have measures, we have prepared ang ating gobyerno to top the most appropriate action on that. Not necessarily military, again. Not necessarily military. Maraming measures. Again, it's not military thing. It's an interagency thing. So even at the end of the day, it's an executive decision what particular action to take.
More questions from the body? Okay, there will be none. May I again call on Sir Yusek Alexander Lopez for his closing statement.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no more other questions, please allow me to just close it with a closing remark. And I would like to address my remarks to our Filipino people, ating mga kababayan. No? Bilang pagtatapos ng ating press briefing na ito, nais kong iparating ang malinaw na mensahe ng ating National Maritime Council sa ating mga kababayan na katulad ng ginagawa natin ngayon, no, lamang ang may alam. No, lamang ang may alam. Kaya nananawagan kami sa lahat ng mga Pilipino na manatiling mapagmatsyag at nagkakaisa sa pagpapahalaga at pagpagtanggol ng ating karapatan sa karagatan. Nang tandaan natin ang ating karagatan ay ang ating kinabukasan. Tulad ng sinabi nating Pangulo, we Filipinos are brave. We do not back down because we are afraid. This government does not withdraw from battles. We Filipinos are brave. Ang laban para sa ating soberanya ay laban ng bawat Pilipino at sisiguraduhin ng inyong pamahalan na lahat ng legal at mapayapang paraan ay gagamitin upang protektahan ang ating mga mangingisda, ang ating karagatan, at ng ating buong sambayan ng Pilipino at ng ating interest. The Republic of the Philippines firmly upholds its sovereignty rights over the West Philippine Sea. These are waters where the Filipino people remain the rightful stewards, recognized under international law. Recent incidents, including those near Balmaceda, have shown that our vessels are not intruders, but protectors of Filipino fishermen exercising their lawful rights in their own seas. The collision involving Chinese vessels underscores the risks when force is used to overshadow legitimate authority. Just as there cannot be two suns in one sky, there can only be one rightful sovereign in the West Philippine Sea, and that is our country, the Philippines. Provocation and aggression cannot extinguish the light of legitimate sovereignty and peace. We urge to stop unjustified exploitation of the West Philippine Sea maritime domain, respect international law, cease all provocative actions, and join the Philippines in pursuing peace and responsible cooperation. Mga kababayan natin, no? Ang West Philippine Sea is not just a place on a map. It is part of our national identity and our future. Like the sun that rises each day, the spirit of the Filipino will continue to shine, steadfast, united, and unyielding. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas, mabuhay ang bagong Pilipinas, mabuhay ang ating malayang karagatan, at mabuhay tayong lahat. Maraming salamat.
And that concludes our press briefing. Thank you for your questions and for joining us today. Please do not forget to tag our Facebook page, National Maritime Council.